Have you ever had brain surgery? If so, who was your surgeon? Chances are it was a white male. That's because throughout history, Latinos have been underrepresented in the medical field. But one man shattered that stereotype. He is one of the most renowned neurosurgeons in the United States today. And his story began when he illegally crossed the Mexican border at the age of 19, with nothing but a suitcase full of dreams. Who is this brilliant doctor? What dangerous journey did he have to go through to make it big? You'll find out in this episode of The War Refugee. July 1981. A young man named Alfredo Quiñones-Hinojosa nervously makes his way through the streets of San Diego. It's hot cockle summer and temperatures reach a sweltering 42 degrees Celsius. Alfredo wipes the sweat off his forehead with a handkerchief and adjusts his backpack. For him, this trip across the border is fraught with danger. On the one hand, he risks being caught by border patrol agents and sent back to Mexico. On the other, there's the chance that he will make it to the land of opportunity and get the better life that has always been denied to him. It all comes down to this moment. The 19-year-old has already made a long and arduous journey from his hometown of Sinaloa de Leyva to reach this point. But he still hasn't crossed the border fence. In fact, he still doesn't know how he's going to do it. But he needs to get to San Diego. That's where his aunt lives. She's the only person he knows in the United States, and she promised to help him settle in if he could just make it over the border. Before he sets off, Alfredo leaves his suitcase with two friends who will hold on to it until he returns. This bag holds everything he owns, including some old clothes and a photo of his mom. Then he sets off for San Diego, where he hopes to be accepted into college. All he has to do is get past those border patrol agents. But they aren't the only ones who are looking for people to catch. There's another group operating along the border that Alfredo has even more reason to fear: drug cartels. They consider the area their own, and anyone who crosses through it without paying them is liable to be kidnapped or even killed. To avoid running into the cartels, Alfredo starts his journey during the day, hiding among the migrants and day laborers who come across the border every day. But as soon as the sun goes down, he has to keep moving too. He spends the night walking through the desert with several other undocumented immigrants. They move from one hidden spot to another, trying to stay as far away from prying eyes as possible. After several days of walking, Alfredo's feet are blistered and sore, and he is so exhausted he can barely keep his eyes open, but he has to push through. His friends from Sinaloa have warned him about how difficult it is to cross the border, but he didn't listen. Now he regrets it. After nearly 3 weeks of traveling, Alfredo finally reaches his aunt's house. When she opens the door and sees him, she lets out a sharp gasp. Her nephew looks thinner than he did in the photo. His clothes are torn and dirty and he hasn't shaved in weeks. But she invites him inside anyway. She gives him food, a place to sleep, and new clothes. But she also warns him, "You have to leave, the coyotes are looking for you." What does she mean by that? Just a few days earlier, Alfredo was almost caught by border patrol, so when he heard the knock on the door, he knew what it meant. The coyote, the human smuggler who brought him to San Diego, was here to collect his money. But Alfredo had no money. He left Sinaloa with all the money he owned stuffed into a pair of socks, and now it was gone. The coyotes threatened to hurt him until he paid them back, but Alfredo was desperate to stay in the U.S. He couldn't return to Mexico empty-handed. He'd be humiliated and ashamed forever. So Alfredo took a risk. He told the coyotes he had $3,000 stashed somewhere in the house. He hoped his aunt would understand why he lied. She did. His aunt took the money and gave it to the coyotes, but that wasn't the end of the story. The head coyote demanded a little extra something from his aunt. "Let us just say I want you to help me make a little money on the side," he said with a grin. She understood what he wanted her to do, and for the sake of her nephew, she agreed. Alfredo never found out what his aunt did for the coyotes, but he was grateful to her for helping him get away. He didn't want to ask her what exactly she had to do to save him, because he was afraid of what the answer might be. Instead, he decided to honor her sacrifice by making something of himself. And what better way to do that than by getting an education? Of course, as an undocumented immigrant, Alfredo was ineligible for government-sponsored financial aid. But there were other ways to pay for school. He just had to work hard, and hard he did. While studying at Southwestern College, Alfredo worked 7 days a week. He wakes up before dawn to work at a construction site. After work, he attends classes. Between classes and homework, he has very little time to socialize. But that doesn't bother him. His goal is to get a job that will allow him to take care of his family and give back to his aunt. When Alfredo graduated from Southwestern College, he did so with honors. His grades allowed him to apply for a prestigious scholarship at Harvard University. The only thing standing between him and a place at the university is an interview. The admissions officer asks Alfredo why he thinks he should be awarded the scholarship. "I am convinced that I am worthy of the scholarship because of my desire to succeed and my drive to be the first physician in my family. My mother wants me to become a professional. She has sacrificed so much for me, and I want to make her proud." The officer considers Alfredo's application and his response. Ultimately, he decides to award him the scholarship. When Alfredo tells his mother the good news, she cries tears of joy. However, his happiness is short-lived. Before he can pack his bags and set off for Boston, Alfredo has to go back to San Diego. The coyotes are looking for him again, and they aren't as nice this time. As soon as he steps outside, they grab him and throw him in the trunk of a car. They drive him around for hours, but they never take him to his aunt's house. Where are they taking him? Why are they holding him captive? As the car slows down, Alfredo hears the trunk pop open, but instead of seeing his aunt, he sees a stranger. "Welcome to the club," says the man with a smile. Before Alfredo can ask any questions, the man throws him into a dark room. There's a mattress in the corner but no windows. Where is he? Is this his aunt's house? Alfredo knocks on the door. "Hey, can somebody please tell me where I am?" No reply, only silence answers him. Alfredo feels tears prickling his eyes, but he quickly blinks them away. Crying won't solve anything. The best solution is to get out of there. But how? Alfredo walks over to the door and tries to open it. It's locked. He bangs on the door. "Hello. Can somebody please let me out?" But nobody comes to help. Desperate to escape, he begins clawing at the door. His fingers bleed, but he keeps clawing. Finally, the door gives way and he escapes. Now Alfredo really has to get out of that house. He runs as fast as he can, not daring to look back. He doesn't know where he's going, but he doesn't want to stay there anymore. Alfredo eventually collapses from exhaustion and hides in an abandoned building. Later that day, a local charity organization finds him and takes him to a shelter. From there, he gets in touch with his aunt, who is relieved to hear that he is alive. She helps him escape the coyotes once and for all and return to school. With her support, Alfredo graduates from Harvard and becomes one of the most renowned neurosurgeons in the United States. He has achieved the American dream, but he hasn't forgotten where he came from. He donates generously to charities that help immigrants and speaks out against the dangers of illegal immigration. So what brings you to this point in his story? Do you think Alfredo's aunt betrayed him by doing the coyotes' bidding? Or do you think she was justified in her actions since they were aimed at saving her nephew's life? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you never miss an episode of The War Refugee. If you're an avid podcast listener, you've probably heard stories like this one before. Well, now you can enjoy them in short form too.